Welcome to Behind the Berry, sponsored by Modexis, where you'll get to know the brand behind these world-class, innovative supplements formulated by science with you in mind. You'll meet our people, the founders of Modexis and members of our Product Research Council. You'll also hear about our amazing products through stories from our customers of overcoming health challenges. They're not just surviving, they're thriving. Modexis is the leader in bringing you the world's first family of innovative natural nutrition, powered by the elite superfruit, Lonicera cerulean. Our products are non-GMO, gluten-free, and made right here in the USA with no preservatives. They're 100% natural, so you can feel good about taking them and sharing them with your family. And learn just how easy it is to become an affiliate with Modexis and gain financial prosperity just by sharing Modexis with the people you love. Now let's jump into this week's episode of Behind the Berry. Hey guys, it's Brittney Jones. Welcome to another episode of Behind the Berry, sponsored by Modexis. With me today, I have the newest member of the Modexis Product Research Council, Alan Ogden. Hi, Alan. How are you?
Hi, Brittney. It's so great to meet you. This is so fun.
Nice to meet you too. Well, Alan is joining us all the way from Canada today, and we were joking. We literally couldn't live any further away from one another as I'm down here in Florida. But I'm so glad that you were able to join us today. Alan Ogden has over 4 decades practicing in the medical field. And as I said, he's the newest member of our Product Research Council. So I'm going to let him share with us a little bit about himself, and then we're going to learn a little bit about the Product Research Council and what they do, and just talk about Modexis and honestly how much we probably love these products. So, Alan, I'll let you take it away. Please share with us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. I'm really happy to share about myself. So, if you asked a 5-year-old in your neighborhood what they wanted to be, they'd have they'd give you an idea. I don't know what it would be today, but when I was 5, I wanted to be a pharmacist, and couldn't spell the word, but I wanted to be a pharmacist. So it's kind of a long story, but my father was killed when I was 5, and I'm the youngest of my family, so I was the only one not in school. And my mom had a John Deere dealership to sell. So that meant that I had to sort of be moved around, and I lived with different family members. And one of those was a great aunt. And she was really wonderful to be with. I watched a tragedy at that time. Really, I won't go into that too much, but it really affected me physically. So I was really sick. And my auntie, she took me by the hand, and we walked down the street a couple blocks, and we went to this little store, and there's a man there with this white jacket, and he talked to me really nicely, and he gave me something to drink. And about 20 minutes later, I just felt good. So I said to my auntie, oh, someday I'm going to do that. I'm going to take people's pain away. And then I completely forgot about that and became a hockey referee. So, there's quite a difference, but anyway, just wanted to be with my friends, and I love hockey, I love skating, I love being outside, and, just all those things. And then when I was about 16, I met a friend of my brother who said to me, hey, listen, I would like to quit my job at the drugstore, but I can't until I replace myself. So would you like the job? I'm like, oh, sure. So I went and had this interview. It lasted about 5 minutes in this drugstore. The man hired me. And honestly, Brittney, I felt like I got home. And I did not remember anything about what I said at 5 years old until I got the job. And then one day talking with my great aunt, and she said, oh, well, you've always said you were going to do that. And I'm like, I did. But I do remember the incident, certainly, of that man making me feel better. So I was able to go to university. And in Canada, we have a different course in the United States. So the degree I got at that time is a Bachelor of Pharmaceutical Sciences. So pharmaceutical sciences encompassing something called pharmacognosy. And pharmacognosy is actually the use of plants as food.
Hmm.
So I literally learned how to take extracts, bark, all these different things that we've long forgotten about, and
Yeah.
we made prescriptions. And doctors would actually write prescriptions, in what's called avoirdupois. That's the sort of Greek and Hebrew term, Latin term for grains. So they would like, a certain herb, and it'd be so many grains, and we would individually make prescriptions for people. Now, that
Wow.
didn't last too long in my career. I was really at the tail end of that. But the store that I was able to buy actually had a basement, and it was full of all the weights and measures and so on. It was so complete. I actually donated it to the provincial museum. So that would be like your state
Yeah.
provincial museum, and they built a drugstore based on all of the things that were in that building, and it's still there till this day. So,
That's really cool.
yeah, it's a really cool story. Once again, my family was very influential on me. Like my grandma, her sister, my great auntie, and because of that, I decided I needed to expand. Now, in Canada, we didn't have a Farm D program like in the United States. When people graduate from pharmacy, they actually get a Farm D designation or doctor of pharmacy. That didn't exist in Canada. So I went back to school and I did geriatric pharmacy. And then I did pediatric pharmacy. And then I decided, okay, I'm going to do the best I can to get a Farm D program. So I wrote a thesis called How's Your Body Know to Stay Sick?
Mm.
And I was able to submit that. It got accepted. And but unfortunately, being Canadian and being American, there's a little difference there in how you're accredited. And so even though that was accepted in the United States, it's not accepted in Canada, which is why I don't use the term doctor. And although I've practiced so many years,
Yeah.
so then I decided. Well, I didn't really decide. It was kind of forced on me. I woke up one day with a headache, like a really, really bad headache. I had never had a headache in my life. I didn't even know what it was. I lost 33 pounds in 3 weeks. And so they wouldn't even let me in the hospital because they didn't know what I had. But it turned out that I had this massive brain infection. And ultimately, they gave me about 6 days to live. So, that's kind of exciting. Like, it's interesting. But
Mm.
at the time, I was so tired because of how this was working. I was so tired. I didn't know. Like I had no energy to think about, I may pass away or whatever. Well,
Mm.
on day 7, I woke up, and obviously, and so I said to the doctor, "Hey, like, what happened?" And he said, "Well, your immune system kicked in." And I said, "Okay, well, is there any way we can do that intentionally?"
Mm.
Right? Like if that's great. I mean, it's wonderful. But and he said, "Well, no, I don't know of any way." So that became the pursuit from then on. Even though I was practicing pharmacy, I decided to get into research,
Mm.
and in that, I discovered glutathione. So I ended up going to a university here in Canada called McGill. And McGill actually is a very famous university. It wrote the original textbook for medical schools, which is still used by all the medical schools in North America to this day.
Wow.
They are also the number one research facility in the world for what we would now call anti-aging. At the time, it was just sort of life extension or learning how to modulate things in that would increase your chances of living a long life. And Dr. Gustavo Bunis, I got to work with him. Dr. Patricia Conshoven, who is the mother of immunology, first lady ever published in the Journal of Immunology.
Mm.
And so that really turned me into a researcher. And since that time, so for the last about 20 years, I've worked in oncology mostly because that's a very difficult disease. And it's very difficult to support from a nutritional point of view. But my work has basically been in finding ingredients and things that are known in science, but they're not known in medicine, to be really good adjunct therapy. So an adjunct therapy means it's something you can use at the same time as you're using medical therapy to actually help people recover or help reduce the side effects from a treatment, like in cancer, to really help your body battle the therapy that you're getting to get healthy.
Hmm.
And so in that, one of the things I discovered along the way was something called Monacera. And I didn't know that it even existed, but just in my research and with the universities I was working with, there's a university in Canada called Dalhousie, which is closer to you than me. It's 8,000 kilometers from me. It's probably like 4,000 kilometers from you. But they're like number one in the research of what in plant materials actually is the active ingredient and why do certain plants have the ability to influence, say, our immune system or our cardiovascular system or our liver or some other way in a real positive direction. And so I got to work with them for a little while, and that's really one of the reasons why Modexus, uh, because of Lana berry and the power of that berry. And then Dr. Rose and I met, through another opportunity. We began to work together. And his background is slightly different than mine in the fact that he's a registered pharmacist in the United States, which means he's really good at drugs. And then he became a naturopathic doctor, which really means he learned, how that whole medical profession views health and how to handle health. So
Mm-hmm.
my course has really been scientific, a lot more science, and to this day, I'm still looking for and formulating different product uh, ingredients, bringing them together in a way that they have a measurable impact on whatever system it is that we're trying to impact. And so, just briefly to give you an idea of that, cardiovascular disease is still the number one killer in America.
Mm.
So we are working on a fantastic cardiovascular product. Now in Canada, we have to go through a rigorous process to get a license to sell a product, and that product did pass that license. It's called a Class 3, which means in Canada you have Class 1, 2, 3. Class 3 is the next thing. If it was any stronger in what it did, it would have to be designated as a drug. So we know it's very powerful.
Mm.
We're working on protein supplements. So protein, in 2014, there was a study done here in Canada on elderly people. And the researchers at the end of the study, their summary was that aging, so the things that we associate with aging, so lack of mobility, lack of immune function, lack of cognition, they're lifetime protein deficiencies.
Mm.
So now we're working on a protein supplement that would actually really influence the availability of amino acids for our brain, for our mobility, etc. So that's kind of where I come from, and knowing Dr. Charlie before, now with Dr. Dina, who's a practitioner, who has basically a focus in the women's world. I think we have just a dynamic combination of people to come together, have discussions, and come up with solutions that we can offer the Modexus advocates that are going to be really helpful.
Yes. Wow. Okay. We have to unpack that. That was so good. I want to kind of scoot back a little to your sort of beginning stages of being in the medical field. I love that your foundation was in more natural medicine, and that you learned these things that you're putting into practice now. And what's kind of mind blowing to me is to hear you say that that was your beginning. Here you are now, and what you're producing now is actually cutting edge, right? People haven't they didn't dive into this to look at food as medicine or to look at nature as medicine. So my mind is blown right now just in that alone. How do you feel about being able to sort of bring these new products out that kind of have been, you know, they use elements of things that have been around for a very long time, and then the new technology that we have to be able to do that. How do you feel about that? Does that just excite you
Well,
to no end?
it's just so exciting. So, um, when I first started practicing, people would approach me as they do, because pharmacists are the most accessible medical profession in the world. You can find their stores are open 24 hours.
Yeah.
They're for many years they've been the most trusted medical profession, and so people used to come into my to my practice and they'd say, "Do you have something for that?" Now, what they meant by that in those days was, "Do you have a pill, lotion, potion, something that's fast, quick, and easy to get me back to work?" Because when I was practicing, starting in the very late 70s, early 80s, there was a great economic shift going on. So in 1969 in North America, 20% of the women had a job. Within 10 years, that changed to where 20% of the women were still at home. So we had a tremendous shift in who was in the workforce. And literally, people didn't have time to have a job, have sick kids, etc. And the pharmaceutical industry stepped into that void. And their idea was, we're going to make a pill for every ill. So no matter what it was, and some of them were even going to invent and make a pill for it was like this was the answer, and people really, I think, trusted that answer. They thought, oh gosh, now I can live my life. I can just go do what I want to do. I can eat the food I want to eat, so on. I don't have to worry about it because I'm going to be able to go to the doctor. I'm going to be able to get a prescription, and there's just going to be a pill for that.
Wow.
I started to see a dramatic shift in that about 10 years ago, 10, 15 years ago, even, where people started coming in and they'd say, "Do you have something for that?" And what they meant by that was, do you have an alternative? I don't want to go the drug way first. Is there something that's an alternative? And that was a tremendous void in the marketplace.
Yeah.
So, as a matter of fact, in Canada here, myself and two other pharmacists, we lobbied the federal government. So that would be like somebody going to Congress in the United States and saying, we do not want tobacco sold in drugstores any longer. So we were successful in getting that regulation or that law passed. It's federally, it's a federal law, but it's administered provincially. But literally, with the exception of one province in Canada, cigarettes are no longer sold in drugstores, because I thought it was so nonsensical to be selling people asthma inhalers at the back and cigarettes at the front.
Yes.
And so I wanted you need to replace. You're going to lose that. That was $2 million worth of sales years. So I tried putting health products into my drugstores. I had 3 at the time. They weren't available. There just was nothing available. I had to import them from Europe to actually get vitamins that worked.
Wow.
Not that there wasn't vitamin supplements that were available, but I wanted something that actually worked. And so this may surprise you, but it was in 1999. So that's really not very long ago. We're talking 24 years ago, was the very first time that individuals from the FDA in the United States and Health Canada actually attended a symposium on natural medicine. And their minds were blown, because they went and they met all these researchers from around the world who were looking at plants. They were still continuing. The American Society of Pharmacognosy still exists, and they're still doing research. And there was a change then. First of all, they divided drugs and nutraceuticals into 2 different categories. They're administered separately. And Canada became the strictest country in the world to launch natural products, which has its benefits in the fact that we have to actually supply evidence that these products are going to work. So it's a great country to work in that regard. And I felt, wow, this is the opportunity I've really been looking for. This is where I can really help people in bringing natural solutions, things that aren't going to interfere with any kind of allopathic treatment that they're taking, And now that whole field is just blowing up. It's exploding at a tremendous rate. So that's I I'm like a kid in a candy shop right now. Uh, it's
Yeah,
really how I am.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if you've heard the term crunchy before, but that's what I would consider myself, is like this new wave of like, I care what I'm putting in my body and I care what I'm slathering on my skin, and I'm paying attention to ingredients, and I want things that are helpful and not harmful. And so us crunchy mamas, us crunchy people, we are loving things like Modexus these days for sure. And what also strikes me as interesting is, I'm not an expert on this by any means, but from my understanding, medicine started as plants and food. That's truly, even in the universities. I want to say Harvard. Um,
Yes, you're right.
am I right? Okay. Yay.
Yes, you're
Okay.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, if we want to look at the history of that, I mean, we didn't have anything else.
Right.
And I have a very wonderful story. My grandma and I, who were very close, we were out at their farm. I would have been under 10. I can't really put a real frame on that. But we would have been under 10, and we were walking through this field, and my grandma, she stopped and she started to pick a few things, and I said, "Grandma, what are you doing?" She says, "Oh, I'm going to make you a gum. I'm going to make you something to chew because you're a little nervous, you're a little anxious. You're out here, I'm a city kid. I've never lived on the farm. And I can tell that you're a little fearful of being out here in the farm. There's lots of things that you don't know." So she literally took some chrysanthemum flowers. She took some other things, and she made this little gum for me to chew, which I did. And it did exactly that. I mean, my anxiety was gone. And right then there was this question that arose in my mind as a child. Why are we not using, like, they're readily available? Here it was growing in a field.
Yes.
She knew how to use it. So it was the only medicine they had.
Yes.
And, all of my grandparents, except one, lived well into their 90s without taking any pharmaceuticals at all.
Yes.
So,
Awesome.
so yeah, what an experience, right? So I'm glad to hear there's crunchy mums. I've never heard that term before, but what a great ideology, really, to
Yeah.
have.
Yes, we're here, and we're loud and proud, crunchy moms too.
Crunchy
Well,
mums.
this is awesome. I would love to keep going, but I think we have to wrap it up. I do have one last question before we do end. Would love to know, what is your favorite Modexus product? Why? What does it do for you? What can you just not live without every day?
Well, I spent the last 2 decades of my life studying glutathione. Um, I actually had the privilege of going to two world symposiums on glutathione.
Hmm.
So one in 2018 in New York City, where I met all these incredible doctors from around the world, and they had dedicated their life to understanding this most important molecule. I actually call it the molecule of life. I own that trademark, actually, glutathione, the molecule of life.
Cool.
Longevity is really got to be my favorite product. Um, and it's the versatility. So I know we're going to talk again at times, Brittney, maybe. Uh, there's so many aspects to what glutathione contributes to a healthy body. So I'm just going to mention this one thing.
Yeah.
There was a study done in 2006. Maybe we can kind of close with this. There's a study done on centenarians, so people that are lived over the age of 100, centenarians, and the only thing they had in common, so their lifestyles are completely different, whether they smoked, didn't smoke, exercised, didn't exercise, what food they ate. The one thing they had in common was they had glutathione levels that were equivalent to somebody in their 30s or 40s. So that really tells us how powerful this molecule, glutathione, is, and how essential it is. To me, it's the ultimate anti-aging. It's just the ultimate product. It's the ultimate ingredient that our body needs. So longevity has to be my favorite one.
I love it. I had a feeling you were going to say that. I do have one last question, actually.
Yeah, good.
This just popped in my head. A lot of people talk about absorption. How does that work with something that you're just taking like a supplement orally? Because people will tell you all day long, and to your point earlier about there are lots of vitamins out there, right? Like, let's look at the ones that actually work. And I know absorption is a part of that conversation. Is this something we can cover somewhat briefly?
We can. So
Okay.
absorption is really, really important. So there's two factors. Absorption is, do the nutrients or nutrition, does that get across your intestinal tract?
Right.
So they do bioavailability studies. The intention of the bioavailability study is to get it across your intestinal tract. That's not where it does its work. The next step is the cellular availability. So when we look at an ingredient and how we're going to formulate that, how we're going to put it together, what transport mechanism do we need to use, not only to get it across the intestinal tract, but what transport mechanism do we need at the cell level to get it inside the cell? Because healthy cells, right? Healthy cells equal healthy organs. Healthy organs equal a healthy organism. So bioavailability is just one thing. So when I hear people say, oh, we've got this product, we did a bioavailability test and it gets across your intestinal tract. Great. But what does it do at the cellular level? So that's a great concern to me. And when we put a product together like longevity, or we put a product together like tranquility, or one of those things, we're looking for what does it actually do once it's in the body, because that's where it has its activity. So, and that's one of the things about Canada is we have to provide studies that show if we're going to use an ingredient or a combination of ingredients in a formulation, we have to tell them why we're using that combination and does it actually contribute to the activity at a cellular level or where it does its work. So hopefully that gave you a little better definition of between bioavailability and actually cellular availability.
Yes, absolutely. And I think it's important for people to hear that and understand it because, again, there are lots of products on the market. You can walk into any drugstore, any grocery store, and buy any vitamin. And I think sometimes people look, if they're cost conscious, they're looking at the price of Modexus and wondering, why would I spend this type of money on a product when I can just go to the grocery store and grab something? And I think that makes a perfect point as to why what you're getting is working on the cellular level. It's not just placebo, like you're feeling good because you took your vitamins today. So just wanted to sort of make that point today. And Alan, I just so appreciate you and your time with me today, and the knowledge that you've shared. And yes, let's do this again. We can talk all glutathione the next time if you want to.
All right. Excellent. Well, nice to meet you. Have a wonderful day in Florida.
Thank you. I'll see you next time.
Right.
Hey guys, it's Brittney. Make sure to go visit modexus.com. That's MODEXUS.com to connect with an advocate for Modexus in your area. I'd also love it if you would like and subscribe to this channel as well as the Modexus channel. And be sure to hit the little notification bell so you know every time we post something new.